Hi, this is Joe with Greenwire Technology Solutions, and this video will hopefully serve to cover many of the questions that people typically ask about wireless cameras. It's a popular topic, and we get a lot of questions about it, and there's a lot of things to know about these cameras. So we figured we'd take a few minutes here and kind of just hash all these out and see if we can, uh, drop some knowledge, if you will. So without any further ado, let's jump in. So wireless cameras to start with is kind of a misnomer. First of all, there's a wide range of what wireless can mean, but second of all, when we say wireless cameras, a lot of the times that's not actually what we mean. There are cameras out there that are completely wireless, where you stick them to the wall and they go. But keep in mind that's going to come with quite a few costs associated with how long the camera can run for, how often you'll have to change batteries on it, whether or not you have to have a big unsightly solar panel on it, and how much the camera misses. Because to be completely wireless, what they tend to do is run algorithms that basically have the camera only turn on when there's absolute solid motion signals. And what that can mean a lot of times, for example, something the Ring doorbell in particular is notorious for, is that you might see the rear end of the UPS guy as he's 15 feet away from your house after dropping a package off. Where, in order to conserve power, the Ring doorbell does not turn on fast enough, and by the time he's walked up to your door and dropped the package off, it's still not recording, and it only starts recording once he's walking away, which obviously, in a security sense, is not something that's exactly great. So, that's problem number one. It is also a problem that some of these wired wireless cameras face. So obviously, again, missing footage because of the power saving modes. That's a big issue. The second issue is that when they say wireless, when we hear wireless a lot of times, it doesn't actually mean wireless. A lot of these cameras are still wired to power. They really need to be in order for them not to be a nightmare with the battery changes. We've replaced plenty of wireless systems where the client just couldn't take the consistent battery swaps anymore, and we put in regular cameras. So, problem number two is that, as you can see in this image, and I'll jump over to say this one here. There's the power wire going down that's going to poke inside the wall somewhere and plug into an outlet in the middle of your bedroom. They're not really wireless, and these wires can be somewhat more difficult to install than a data wire would be, which runs data and power off for the camera at the same time. But they can also be very unsightly. Not to mention that they don't have many of the wired options don't have battery backups, so if the power goes out for a moment, you lose your camera. Um, so, that's problem number two, is wireless doesn't really mean wireless. And then we move on to issue number three, and that's the cameras themselves. Uh, as we can see right here, cost-wise, they're actually usually very close in cost to a professional camera. Um, they're usually not much less expensive, and if they are, they might be, but they're really sacrificing on all that stuff. But even in this case here, even on the more expensive ones, you're usually talking about missing a lot of the things that you get out of a professional camera, such as a very long night vision range through IR, such as um, wide dynamic range, which is basically the ability of the camera to record clearly in areas with differences in light and dark. I always like to say, if you have a camera inside pointing at your front door, you open the front door, a camera with poor WDR performance is going to show a bright white sheet basically on your front door. You're not going to be able to see anything that's going on outside. Whereas a professional camera with good inbuilt WDR is going to be able to see right through that, and you'll be able to see what the person outside is doing. And most importantly, a lot of these cameras are 2 megapixels or less. Our basic camera that we install is 4. We go all the way up to 12 on most of them. And 4 versus 2 is not half the resolution. It's actually considerably less than that because of the way they rate the resolutions. So 2 megapixel is pretty poor. And if that was all of it, it may not even be that bad. But because these cameras are wireless, and because most of these cameras upload to the internet, which we'll get to in just a second, you actually get a lot of compression, which means that the actual end result of your recorded footage is not even remotely close to 2 megapixels or the 1.3 the camera is rated for. So overall camera quality tends to be a bit of an issue. Finally, on the same camera thing, the warranties tend to be much lower than the 3 to 5 year warranties you'll find on a professional camera. The next issue that we'll talk about is wireless and the internet. Uh, these cameras are wireless. many of them, actually all of them, as far as how they get the data back to the recording device, and all of them go through the internet. There is one, I will give credit to one company in particular, and that would be the, let me see here, I've got it up here somewhere. It's the well, maybe I don't, my apologies, but it's the Netgear Arlo system. And the Arlos do have the ability to self-record on site, which is very important, and more on that in a moment. But they still do record to the cloud for the most part. And again, what you're doing there is every single one of these cameras that you put on and you put on the wireless, you're eating up wireless bandwidth for the rest of your devices in your house, which means you need a more comprehensive and a better wireless system. And at some point, you'll need more than one wireless system because video is very bandwidth intensive, and recording all of these cameras over wireless means that you're chewing up quite a bit of your wireless through time. As a matter of fact, there's also issues with these cameras, which we do sell and install in certain cases, where you go outside and mount the camera and you just don't have wireless in that spot. So now we're stuck trying to extend the wireless. Doesn't end up being a real cost saver in these kind of cases. And again, Ring doorbells are notorious for this. You have great wireless coverage inside your house. The second you close the door out front, you have none. And they sell a whole host of products, and we install products that can kind of overcome that. But again, you're not saving any money at that point. And you're getting an inferior product, so it kind of becomes, why would you do it? When we go back to the internet topic, though, the other big issue with the internet tends to be that, well, you're chewing up your internet bandwidth. Since most of these cameras record to the internet, you are constantly streaming, which means you're constantly using up some of your speed, both on the upload and download, to record online. This is problematic, especially if you're on a slower connection. Not only that, but they're going to throttle the camera up and down to make sure that they're not overtaxing your system, which means that your quality varies a lot. And then you come to the biggest problem, especially for the ones like Ring and Nest and the ones that don't have local on-site storage, and that is that if your camera goes down, if your internet goes down, you don't have any footage. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, years ago, I had a Ring doorbell. My car got broken into in the middle of the night. I was like, cool, you can see my car from where from where my Ring doorbell is. The Ring doorbell will capture this, and I'll know what happened. Unfortunately, that night I had a 3-hour Comcast outage, and I had no footage, which is not uncommon at all. So that's a pretty major issue. And again, Arlo kind of overcomes that with having some local on-site storage, but it's very minimal, and you still run into this problem quite a bit. And then we come to the real elephant in the room, which is, again, cost. A lot of times people install these cameras, they're looking for a cost savings. They're looking for a system that, just is going to save them money over having professionally installed cameras. And they might look at, an 8-camera system on a house that might be, say, $3,000 installed. And they might go, well, I can get these Ring cameras. And if you install them yourself, you might save some money there. The kind of insidious thing that happens, though, is then you start talking about storing the footage. And in the case of these cameras, I've had clients that spend $1,500 a year on cloud storage, trying to retain 30 days of camera footage. And this, by their own choice, so that's their call to make. But once they factored in installing the camera system and then the continuing cost, it was less than a year before the professionally installed cameras were cheaper. So this is a pretty big issue, and especially if you want to have any kind of length of retention past 7 days on all of these systems, this is going to come out to be a problem. And you can forget about full-time recording because that's going to be outrageously expensive. These are motion-only recordings, you do not get full-time. So that's another issue. Now, there's some benefits, without a doubt. For a single camera, maybe one or two, that's a great solution because maybe you don't want to install a whole system. We can install a professional camera with a memory card in it. That's also a good solution. But if you want to just go put one up yourself, that's a possibility there. In some cases, in particular with say Nest and Arlo, they actually do have some fairly good motion analytics, and the apps themselves can be fairly user friendly. They're a bit limited, but what they do they do very well. They have a very useful interface. So that's definitely a benefit that you would count in the favor of the wireless cameras. And finally, some people really like the cloud storage. They like the idea that the system's not on site. I can tell you that in all the years I've been doing this, we've caught a lot of people doing a lot of things on camera systems that we've installed. I mean, we're talking about through the last decade here, and we've caught home invasions, we've caught employees stealing, we've caught clients abusing employees, we've caught people doing things in houses, the kids, kids doing things in houses they weren't supposed to, cars being broken into, all that stuff. And I've never had anyone come anywhere close to touching one of our camera systems. We're pretty good about installing them in places that are well concealed, and we can also update our we can also make our camera systems record to either a secondary location in the house for backup, very inexpensively, or to the cloud, which does cost quite a bit more, but that's what happens when you store footage on the cloud. So the cloud is definitely a benefit of these. There's no doubt about it. So when it comes to businesses, especially, we really, really never make these just aren't a good fit for businesses. And any business I've seen these in personally, I've seen them replaced. And again, this goes for all of these wireless options. Um, there are some wireless options that we offer for some very specific circumstances where we use dedicated wireless networks. Um, they're better than what you get here, but they're still I still prefer to wire when possible. It's always best to have it wired. It's going to look the best. You're going to get the best footage out of it. You're going to get the best retention. The wired is preferable. We also have wireless cameras where we set up long range wireless points where we use these dedicated point to point systems where the wireless isn't built into the cameras and they're not interfering with your Wi-Fi. And those systems work really well too for more remote mounted cameras, maybe on a pole somewhere or what have you. Um, so that's also another good option, and technically would fall under the wireless umbrella, but it's not truly wireless. So I hope this kind of answers a lot of the various questions. And of course, if you have any more, feel free to give me a call at the office. Number's 239-444-5522, or shoot me an email at jparker, the letter J, Parker, at greenwirait.com. Be happy to answer any questions you might have about this subject. Uh, Hopefully, again, this helps, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks.